once. It's amazing. Uh, Makes you aware of what all can happen, but also how to, what to do if it does happen. So anyway, Eric's going to talk to you about how you can get it yourself through the race.
Yeah. So good afternoon. I didn't really get hooked up on this until Blood Rock. So yeah, you guys probably all see me out there. So I just hang out, run med, and then in this particular race, doing last year with David, and just doing all the work prior to the race and how we were going to manage people's aid stations and things like that. So there's a lot of logistics behind it. So when you look at that medically, I just look at what threatens you guys, not what threatens me. So yeah, so we do like a medical threat assessment and we kind of either do nothing or try to mitigate risk. So in this particular race, I don't worry too much about it because most people that sign up for a few hundred have some experience. So yeah, so I do a lot of footwork. I learned that way long time ago, like 40 years ago in the Army, because I operated in Panama for about 3 years. And we were always covered in bacteria, whatever, but a lot of immersion foot, uh, trench foot. There's a lot of different names for it. So I see somebody here that's fixing your feet, which is not a bad book. Uh, so what I see from you guys, or what I'm working on you guys, uh, is I see a lot of immersion foot, and that's pretty hard to not get. So, we're running it hot, cold, it doesn't really matter. What happens, we're perspiring, and then your feet perspire as well. So as your feet get wet, and you're putting all the pressure on your feet because you're running, and sooner or later your skin starts to break down. That's really what immersion fluid is, break down skin. And then you're stressing them. You're stressing them. 'Cause, I mean, typically when people get bad or severe immersion fluid, we want to stop doing what they're doing. Get those feet aired out, give time to heal in the air so that skin can heal. So, but we know uh, that's probably not the case with you guys. Very few people will quit the race. So I just use, to manage feet, the biggest thing is keep the feet dry. There's tricks to that, from anything from using like underarm spray to, I've heard all the magic. And the last few hundred, we had a couple of kids that were, I don't think as experienced as most people I see are here, but they were using creams, and not an advocate for putting cream on feet, and even foot powder, because powder will actually absorb, bring water to it, and then it'll clump, and then it gets wet. Now you got this, I don't know what it is, like the white mud, and it's destroying your feet. So yeah, sprays, things like that, and then I'm a big Providine type person. You gotta be careful with it, but it actually works well. It actually draws moisture from the skin. So that's what I use when I'm working on it. And I use it too to kill bacteria. If you have those big old blisters, things like that. Yeah, so part of having your your methodology and how you take care of your feet and your ankles and your knees and the rest of your body. You know, shoes is everything. You guys know that. Having multiple shoes. I can't tell you how many trail running shoes I got, but one day it wasn't my favorite, and the next not. And then after a couple hours, it was strikes. The shoes then start to open up, or whatever. You start causing pressure points on you. 330. And the pressure points usually turn into hot spots, or turn into blisters. All blisters are is thermal injuries. So I just need their emails. I need their So we can mitigate them, but they'll stay painful. Every now and then I'll throw a little Lidocaine on somebody to feel the pain, but it's always, whoever I work on, it's always their choice, continue or not. I don't like, there's very few that I've said, like, I don't know if you ever see a picture of that guy under 200, he was about 9 miles below, Chihuahua, and, he got the Ultra 200 race ticket for a birthday present. He was wasted, tired like everybody. And if you lay down and ask for permission to work on his feet, I mean, I had to do actual abrasion, like cut skin off his feet. The cool part is slept me the whole day. Oh, I didn't have to do anything. He was just like, okay, and then he was going. And I had his daughter with me, so we had a good conversation about birthday presents. Probably not going to force it up here with that one next year. So yeah, so really tore up feet. You know, we worked them, got them cleaned up, patted him out the right way, and then off he went, and he made it. So a lot of it was here, here. So yeah, so that's what I do. Other ortho injuries, you've got sprains, strains, things like that. You know, we can tape up. There's a lot of options we could give you. So on the 200, we're road. So for this particular race, well, we had to start point doing all the med checks. Then we'll start bouncing, try to stay ahead of you or start to stay mid pack. So if you need anything, I should be running the taco for stop by, whatever your problem is. But other than that, it's really all I have to address on see your experience. But if you have any questions, I'm out there. I'm also pretty tired. But
Yeah, how many crew do you have? 'Cause I'd imagine first place to be the last place is a big gap. Pretty great, so.
so I set up in like we take off and then I get well this last year was our inaugural race, right? So we figured things out. We got the car full, big vans with all the stuff raised. So I got ahead. Typically the fast runners they don't worry too much yet, so I'm always looking at mid pack, backpack. Um, and then I kind of work the time for that. So when my mid, some of the last pack come through, if I don't hear anything from other aid stations, I'll push up again. So I'm just leapfrogging you a little bit. Now, if you have an emergency out there, like I don't know, you're having a chest pain and trying to die, call 911 because we probably a lot of the race, the trail itself, you can't access you anything. But we have you on tracker. We can see you, and we learned a lot of lessons as far as keeping track of people. And then the redundant is all the aid stations are doing the same thing, but came through, he came through, he came through. So yeah, and then you know if you've got, you can. I'm just going to tag on to that. Should all carry something to mitigate your, you know what your problem's going to be out there. You've got thousands of miles on the body. You know, you should know what you have. You have blisters. You have blister mitigation kits or whatever you do. I go as far as carrying like Stan Flynn and an ace wrap when I'm especially running pin or whatever. Because the injuries that I expect I will get, one doing Superman's, right? So either I'm gonna hit my head into a tree, go over one of the edges, and I'm gonna tumble. But it's always typically I'm gonna have an ortho injury, cut separation. So that's the stuff I carry in my pack. And both those things don't weigh anything. They don't really take up a lot of volume in your kit. Things like that.
Every race station will have a small, no, every.
Yeah. Yeah. But that's all I really have.
Nothing goes wrong, obviously, so.
Yeah, creams are wet. There's moisture in creams, so moisture is water. And at least in my experience over the years, uh, when you're adding water to your skin, it's like it's going to be wet. And also your feet are full of bacteria, right? So I feel like that it's going to cause you more problems. Some of those like athlete's foot sprays that are dry, those work really well and they pull moisture. They're not going to last forever, but if you need a quick tune-up or something like that, you pull over, you buy a little can or whatever. But I see a lot of people use creams, and if I was to put statistics between people doing dry feet, cream feet, my new ice cream. Typically, I can guarantee you're gonna have more injuries, more problems with people with put creams on, and even put powder, like the old Gold Bond or something to that effect. And that goes as far as back. I was in the military, and they're always powder your feet, change your socks. Change your socks makes sense. Changing your boots makes sense. Dude. But powder did because it was always full of moisture and then it turns into so yeah. There's two products I use. One's a jock itch and one's a foot itch. They're both over the counter. And I don't know who makes it. But both of them have different antibacterials in them. So they just work. Sometimes one works better than the other. Not saying I know where their feet work. I mean, you find that jock itch. This happens. Or we can make a combination if you got both problems. And that goes to the other joints too, right? I mean, you start salting up, right? Start burning those electrolytes, you're pulling salt out, pulling moisture. You get all the hot spots in your joints where your crotch, well, everybody knows that. And we need to manage that well, because sooner or later you'll be so painful that probably not gonna run or not run very happy. But I don't know if 200 is ever happy, right? Somewhere in there you get happy. Probably in some of your reports, they yeah, boy, you're zombieing down the trail. So, yeah. Anybody else? All right, thanks for your time, and we'll definitely see you there. Act like party. Go back to back. Thank you. Ah,
Aaron, if I were doing another one, flash scratches, blisters, after like that, I never had a blister in my life. Uh, Go ahead now and switch over to true horror stories. And, I guess we'll start with that. Yeah, or basically, really not just horror stories. We want to know what we need to know is what the crew knows what to expect. Because it can be a rude awakening, even for people that have crewed for 100-mile races. This is a whole other world sometimes.
Yeah, and that's what I mean, again, I'm only speaking from, end of line runner and, one personal experience, but I'll try to kind of focus on at least 3 for 100s and then the couple of 200s that I have, kind of just what's a little different maybe and what are some things to think about. I don't know how many you are here versus runners, but, I mean, I think the first thing that is probably common sense is that every runner preferences and needs are going to be different. So I'm really only speaking about you've done, and what I've found that I think worked pretty well. I think it probably goes without saying, probably even more so than for 100. For a 200, you're probably going to want to plan ahead of it. And there's like some logistical ways that you could think about doing that. One thing that we've done that's been helpful is, we'll just like those of you that use this, like make a shared note thing that's on both of our phones, so then we can kind of, she might put lists on there of like stuff that she's gonna have at an aid station, or, for me personally, things to remember, just to always have like on hand, or maybe it's all in one bag. So that way you just have one thing to grab. So just from like a planning point of view, that was pretty helpful. It's probably overkill, but like both of us, just balancing work and training and a kiddo and school and social stuff, just to find the time to like sit down and talk about the race. Like, hey, this is what the terrain looks like. This is kind of what my plan is. Like we did like a couple of like legend coffee shops that like took an hour and just like talked just about race. That was helpful for us. That may not be relevant to other people, but that was kind of helpful. Um, So, I guess a little backstory. So I have done some trail running. I've done probably 3 or 4 50Ks. I was hurt all the time. So I kind of switched to riding bikes and I didn't hurt anymore. I think I'm learning today that I just probably wasn't tough enough. So I mean, I think like speaking the language and getting to know, like, it gets easier to crew the more races you've crewed a runner for. And I'm with my spouse, so we kind of speak the same language, I guess. And so that makes it easier. So I think if that isn't your situation, then really understanding ahead of time what they think they're gonna need or want, and where they want you to push them or not. So if they come in and say their plan is they're gonna sleep 2 hours, and then the 2 hours hits, and they say, well, I wanna keep sleeping more. Do they really want you to, like, do they really wanna keep sleeping more? Do they need you to get them up and going? Or do they actually need to sleep more? I mean, sometimes it's hard to know. So I think ahead of time, saying, if you say you wanna sleep 2 hours, is that when you wanna wake up? Or if you say like you need to sleep more, then should I let you sleep more? I usually push for it. But I think it just, that all varies, it depends on your runner, it depends on your relationship and stuff, but I think that's just some stuff going into it ahead of time that could be helpful. Yeah.
Do you think having your emotional attachment to the person you're doing is better or worse?
I think it's better and worse. I think you get to kind of share in their like success, to a different level, but I think sometimes it can be harder to, in some ways, I think it can be harder to be hard. I don't know, maybe you're also more comfortable in, yeah, no, you just need to go, or, hey, you need to stop. Yeah.
A little bit, it's given the opportunity to go, I usually put them at the very end. Because, all my other pacers before are very tough, and like, I have a plan, and I'm not leaving, but somehow when I get to him, he's like, I'm not here for several days, I'm tired, we're getting this thing done, and I just start to get a little more like emotional because I can be for him, and I let my guard down a little bit, so if I had him earlier on, I could get enough. But having him later on when I can like a little bit let my guard down and know that I can continue you and I'm gonna make it to the finish and maybe let a few tears flow. It's good, but I couldn't do that. So I think that having you know me really well is good, but having people that I might feel a little more like I need to put on a strong front and then.
Uh, So maybe just like a few kind of specific logistical things with 200s that I think are a little bit different, I mean, generally speaking, 100 milers, one night, most people's batteries for stuff are gonna last for the whole race, if you think about it, like, a lot of that stuff is pretty easy. 200s, it is, you do have to start to think about some of the things as crew. So if they really need their watch and they don't have one, she has before, so like it probably would last the whole race, but you might have to think about how are we gonna charge this thing in short bits of time, or one thing that we've had a lot of success with for like a phone, even though she's probably keeping it on airplane most of the time, just so it doesn't die. Like we'll get some of the little portable chargers and have them ready ahead of time, like the ones that plug into the bottom of your phone. So then it fits in your pack and like it's not gonna die. So that's an easy thing. I think just like, for bits and pieces of the race, like she might use headphones, so like she'll keep them in the pack, use them, they'll die, she'll give them to me, I'll charge them in the car. Having something like the fast charging charger, so if something is, like if her phone's really low and you only have, let's say like 30 minutes or something at an aid station, like you can charge it a lot if you have something that can charge quickly. So like stuff like that is helpful in these races versus 100 milers where it just doesn't really matter. Go ahead, Nicole.
I think like knowing that you've got everything else covered is a luxury that I know not everybody can have, but when you can walk into an aid station and not be thinking, do I need to charge this? Like, yes, water, nutrition, but like, is everything taken care of? And knowing that somebody like him, like, is gonna think about that, is what I would try to alleviate myself from. Like, I don't need to think about this, just he will, and I know he has lists on lists. Because even if I think I'm gonna remember the minute I walk into that aid station, I'm sure all of you can relate to it right after that.
Yeah, so I mean, I kind of view that as like, I'm trying to remember the things that I know she's gonna need, but she doesn't have them. And so sometimes depending on the point in the race, like if she has a pacer with her and I'm not with her, I might, as long as they have service, which at least in this race, I think generally speaking, most of the course is probably gonna have self-service versus, we pace her brother at Bigfoot and 90% of that race, there was no substance abuse involved, but no. It was kind of a nightmare. This is a little more logistically feasible, I would say. So, like, I might text with her pacer and be like, "Hey, like, how's she doing? Has she said anything that she knows she wants at the aid station, or knows that she's going to need?" Because they're going to be coming in like, she's really tired, or she's going to sleep, or she wants to be kind of efficient. So, like, I can have that stuff ready, like specific things ahead of time because I already know what those might. Um, Having the live trackers in this race and like in Tahoe is super helpful because you really have a pretty good feel of when they're going to be coming in. So I think as a crew member, that makes it a lot easier to plan, know where to be, know how much time you have. If you feel like they're going to want like something cold to drink, maybe that's not in an aid station, you probably have time to like go to a gas station, have an ice chest with you or whatever. So that I think is pretty helpful. Sleeping, so Ash hinted at it, but in both these races, she didn't use sleep stations, but did sleep in the car. So for both of those races, we used just like a SUV air mattress. So basically, it's one that you fold the seats down and it just fits in the back. That worked pretty well. They blow up on car chargers, so don't need to think of an outlet. And she mentioned, I think I missed some of the sleep talks, but just having stuff. I think maximizing that sleep time for the runner is so important because you're getting it such small bits, so making it as high quality as possible. So I think others have spoken about it, but having stuff so they can kind of clean themselves a little bit, wipes, whatever you might use, even like change clothes, take your contacts out, like even if you're only sleeping for an hour, if it's really good sleep for an hour, better than just, I mean, maybe it works for you to just run in and just go straight to sleep, on the cot or whatever, but that's stuff that I like try to have ready.
I know, I think another thing that we talked about on the drive here was, making sure that all of your crew has Gaia as well, even if they don't plan to pay. So that they have that, everybody has that, be really helpful, just to know have your bearings, especially because you may never anticipate racing and you may be, like last minute, and so having that is really, really helpful. And then taking care of yourself as a group. Like you need to sleep so if you can have another person, that's great. But like making sure that you can't take care of your runner if you're not taking care of yourself as well. And I'm first thing I think about is have you rested because you're driving. And so just trying to find those times, but it happens. You have quite a big gap between you see your runners. It's not so just making sure they take care of yourself as well.
Yeah.
So,
I think those are the main things. Yeah.
Well, I got a question about that. These points for 200 miles, logistically, how do you manage pacers, vehicles, lodging? Do you have, like just hot fitted from Salted to Rome to Oxford? Or do
Yeah.
you basically centralize and have an Airbnb someplace in Rome and just try? I mean,
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, I think if you live within driving distance and dependent on what your plan is with your runner, that's obviously like we live in Birmingham. So, it was feasible to drop her off at the start. And I came back for something like that, in that first day.
they're back, right?
Yeah, I did go. But yeah, I mean, I think it depends on where your crew's coming from, so for her, most of her cases were semi-local, Birmingham area for the most part. So they like we did have to figure out some logistics with where to park the car, where to because it is point to point. But so like others who have done even point to point 100s, you have to kind of figure this stuff out if you have pacers that are driving themselves. So we coordinated a lot of that ahead of time. We kind of knew who was going to do what section, and so usually what we would do would have them park their car where they were going to finish. And I would meet them there, and then we would drive to wherever we were going to meet. They were going to meet or to run with them. And that tended to work pretty well because they had the car there when they finished. That said, if you have to backtrack at aid station, it's not like the drive times are pretty reasonable between, in this race. Again, like I'll contrast it with Bigfoot 200, where the shortest drive between 8 stations is an hour. Short. All 4 service roads, no cell service, all dirt roads. It was, I mean, I'm not trying to say to never do great, but as a group, it was pretty challenging. So then to do Tahoe and even point to point in this race is, pretty feasible. So I think some planning that ahead of time, knowing what sections your pacers are gonna run. And then if plans change, you figure it out there. Like if your pacer is only gonna do one leg and they decide, hey, I'm gonna stay and do the next one, then you may just have to drive it back to the car. Or if you have another crew member that has a car, or, you're gonna, so there is a little bit of that you have to figure out, but, not bad.
There's also downloaded, you can download the
Yeah,
entire map.
that's a great way to go. One other thing, logistical thing, if in case there are areas that you don't have cell service and you're trying to navigate, I tend to use Google Maps, and one thing that I have realized that, crewing in some areas where we didn't have cell service is ahead of time, you actually can download map areas so that you don't need cell service for Google Maps to route you where you need to go. For those that haven't done it, like I'm sure you can look it up online, it's in the little app, you can basically select a part of the map, want to download it, or download it. So if you're just gonna punch in, whatever, aid station or whatever, in Google Maps, and where you're coming from, you don't have cell service, it'll still get you there. So that's a helpful tip. I do have the Gaia app, I load the route on there. Just have it. Yeah.
My question, you bring your son with you on race day?
Yeah. It all depends on the race and the situation. I mean, 100% gender, usually not, at least not that hard. So we usually either have, yeah.
Right, and
I mean, we also don't have, parents local either, so there's some planning that goes into the races that she does and how we manage that, like. So last year, Sam was at his grandparents in Ohio, for the week, and the weekend around that race,
I have 4 kids.
yeah,
They're excited to be my only race crew.
yeah.
And so
Yeah, I think.
I don't know how that's gonna go. I think I can.
But I think if you make it an adventure, like.
Yeah, I mean, that's.
And I never, so kind of going back to your question, I never stayed in Airbnb or hotel. First night, I came back to Birmingham. Second night, I slept in the car. Just little staying there in Massachusetts, was gonna sleep, but just on it, whatever aid station she was gonna be at. That third night, I was running. So,
Yeah, I think like, he's good at it, like, he doesn't do the multi-grade stuff as much as focus for both of us, like, we're on a mission. But I do think, like, having him around is really special, especially if somebody else can help with him. But, so I don't linger at the finish line, everybody, I'm like notorious, I'm like, hi, because I gotta go. Which is unfortunate, but it would be nice to sit and like have a beer and watch everybody else come to the finish, but it's like next job. So, but I think it, makes you stronger, so.
This is my only one.
Yeah.
But like, I mean, my kids are probably more excited
Yeah,
about this than
yeah.
I am.
You make it kind of a big,
Yeah, I mean, that-
adventure thing, like.
like I'm not gonna take your buffalo to show himself to do one. Doesn't matter to us.
Very happy about RV and
Yeah.
doing a camping adventure for them.
I think it's good for them to see parents work hard. I love it.
Yeah, I'll bring something out real quick on the navigation part.
Yeah.
Because when I was first, well, then I still will have to, back there, finding those aid stations and getting back to everything marked. There's no service station, as everybody knows. And so that's where I just used my guide app. And it showed me where I was. And so you look at the road, say, okay, well, here's whatever road. And you might have to do a little interpretation and some rotation, but you keep yourself on the right road. That's where you may have to turn off to go to an aid station and it'll have to zoom in and out, but it will get you there where there's absolutely no cell reception. I think you can do that with Caltopo too, can't you think so? Because it shows you where you are. But anyway, that's what I had to do on all those, to get to all those aid stations, locations in Georgia, back on the backside. Because once you go over those mountains for golf, there's no cell reception. But that way you stay on track and you can find the aid station. Anyway, yeah, but that's.
Springs is a really good kid too. Like there's several that are really good. That Cave Springs would be a great one. There's
Yeah,
like
there's
a
a
park,
park and a
like they can really like spend concentrated time
Yeah,
there,
it's
and
a
it's
nice-
a great one
nice
for
spot.
kids and stuff like that too. So, yeah, and lots of like restaurants too.
Heather, you have anything you'd like to say? Or Larkin? The third member of the family has arrived back here. Remember the picture of Bill and Larkin standing there with Heather in the middle. They both had their blood rock buckles from 2 years ago. So. Yeah.
I would go that far because, 2 races ago, Larkin was waiting on me, I guess I'll get responsibility. Larkin was waiting for me to come with all cafe and a train stopped on railroad tracks and I could not get there. So that was my fail because I got the paper map out and saw where things were, but I had to come up with a new route. So just telling a crew to always expect the unexpected. And I will say, every time Bob has had his best race, I'm having my worst. I've been through about a month, I had to tell your crew to bring the tow rope, because I did not have one, you never know what's gonna happen. So have a paper map, have a tow rope, whatever, I mean, there's always something that we need that we don't have, so my list, but this in the crew box, just keeps growing, because every race is different, but that's the fun of it. You can ask Bob, we needed tweezers at Bob's first 200 miler because he had a splinter in his foot and we were trying to get it out. Neither of us could ever get it out. It is. So, and yeah, make sure, like you were saying, make sure your crew knows they are responsible for their own comfort and that they need to sleep and eat. I feel great if I can get at least one hot meal prepared by somebody else during a race like a $200, and sometimes that's from the aid station. And I have to say that you will be well cared for, because David puts on the races, all the volunteers from Birmingham are the best there is. I know from personal experience, I know when I go to other states and other places that I'm not gonna have as good of support as I do when I'm here in Alabama with one of David's races. So, almost anything will be able to survive. I would say that the first time our kids spent with us in a race, Oregon, I think 12 or 13 will cruise with me for the day. Know your kids. Our daughter, we were like, we're not allowed to come. You're not gonna last for a couple of hours. And she still doesn't. She made it through 100-mile race the whole time, one time. But that is too rough to be for, which can be. But then they start driving, they can drive you to these races, but they can be up with you the whole time. And that's been some of my best memories have been with Arctic Cruise and Dad, because we're there the whole time. I typically don't leave a course because I could get lost and not make it back to where I'm supposed to be. I'll leave and get lunch and that kind of thing, but I just leave in my car the whole time. It's too much trouble to go somewhere, find somewhere to stay, get back to where I'm supposed to be. It just never lines up for me. Now Larkin was the one that stayed out for the whole 200 miles and stuff. So do you want to speak to the crew experience and what you had? Like, you had plenty of time to sleep.
Yeah, it was very relaxed for me, I would say. But I was just living in my truck bed pretty much. So I had a loaf of bread, peanut butter, and jelly. Whenever I was hungry, I made a sandwich, and if he had any leftover food, I would give it him for doing it. And then if I knew he wasn't gonna eat it, I'd do that too. But I did stop in Rome, and I went to a grocery store, and I was like, all right, He lied about this, but I know I do too. I would need something if he didn't need it. It was extra for me too.
Off the
So.
number.
I was trying to take care of those other convertible, side.
And another aspect, we both threw him at Cool Jewel last year. And you don't know where you're gonna be. So it's hard to say, hey, let's get a room for this night, when you might not even be here there, or it's, like 11 o'clock in the morning. You're gonna need to be somewhere at 6 o'clock that afternoon. Okay, yeah, you got 5 hours, so what are you gonna do? You can't even get a room. Well, that's my question. No one rents RVs for this?
We talked to multiple people, after we were at one of the ACs, we got multiple
Oh, yeah.
people, sprinter vans,
You
RVs.
can get all the expedition caution. Yeah, that's what we're planning on doing.
Even the dirt road.
We're waiting on
There's still multiple people, and I mean, people that even just have, you know, they're waiting on this.
Yeah. I know.
On the
Phone
TV.
out Trunk, they slide in.
The crewing company. Yeah, yeah, we're ready to start.
They've got playgrounds. We went on cruise in USA and we rented an RV for the weekend. So my kids are excited about being on Twitter for it because they're like, oh, an adventure. We'll see that a couple times doing that. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, you know, the thing. You gotta make it to the next lap and do the third kid. You gotta make it to the next lap. That is the nation.
The difference is
Yeah.
timing, figuring out what the pace is and when they're gonna be where.
So it's just primarily just even gonna like, kind of like what you just said, like, you know, okay, all I'm, you should be here in 5 hours, I guess I'll just sit here and wait.
Yeah, I've gotten pretty good at timing it, knowing how much time I have, but the problem got, they hit a wall and they slow down and they can wonder where they are. So he leaves his phone on him and I could use it to do it. I will also say, trackers are great if you have a runner that works well with the tracker. I do not. He has lost his tracker. I mean, what, how much every single time. That's one. So I can't even rely on trackers. I've been waiting to make friends with two others, but they stay waiting. So, yeah, they need to, I would say, and just the sleep and the mental thing.
Yeah.
You know, keep your mind sharp and because it's so hard. They just don't get that it's hard for me to think too quick for it, you know, like they for yeah. And that's why we did explain to you and, you know, making sure that you're feeling good too. That'd probably be better. And I think, I mean, if I didn't love them and they're having an emotional connection, there's no way I would approve it. Benefit, you're there, probably say, I love them. And, I mean, and I creep both of them in the same race sometimes, in 100 miler. And that's the core challenge, and I would take on it if it really was cool. That was hard to do, so.
That did bring up a good point about the trackers though. I would say by and large, they're really helpful and they work really well. But they're not perfect either. Sometimes they'll cut out for a while or they'll show their runner like it looks like they're way off course and then it'll update and they'll be back on course. I remember the in Tahoe for her, there was a section where she had 2 or 3, updates of that thing that looked like she had gotten lost off the course. And we were getting kind of concerned for a while, and then all of a sudden, an hour later, it popped back and she was right on the trail. So I think just knowing that, if you have canopy, they work just like any other GPS device. So they're not perfect at any given point, but they can be helpful.
And if you have friends or family that you give the link to, please tell them that too, because that's what
I was gonna say.
and your parents that you trust me will be freaking out because they're like, something's wrong.
Like, why should in the middle of this lake?
Yeah. Because some people like, as wonderful as they are, and they're a huge asset, they're not perfect. That's a good out.
The first time I did Joe Jewel, I fell at mile 45, and tracker came off of me, and it fit right back in my pocket. Well, it stopped working.
Yeah.
So I'm carrying it all the time, and I'm getting, thanks, just like, you know, right. And then same thing, this stopped working at mile 80 something. I made it back, I finished the race, got back to and race director comes over and says, your wife is just going to change.
One thing I did want to mention too is, have your runner have all the essential items in a drop bag in case you don't make it there as the crew person, so that they're not just relying on you. You would have, just a warm shirt where you think you're gonna need it, and then they can take it along the way if you don't use it. But that's one thing that we do that's really helpful. He runs by himself sometimes without a crew or pacer, so he knows how to pack it. So I don't have too much that I'm carrying into the next station that's not in a drop bag that's gonna be there waiting. That's all.
Before David comes up, we've got a Zoom with, Ashley Crosby and Brittany Kohler, who have the company called Chaos Crewing that plan to be here. And all the flights got booked. Got canceled. The last one was canceled at 10:30 last night, so they didn't make it. So we're gonna see if we can get a Zoom meeting going. Hopefully we'll be able to hear them and they can hear us. So let's see how this goes.
Can you hear us, Ashley?
Hi, yes, I can.
Okay, give us just a second to adjust some volume here. Okay, go ahead and start. Glad to have you guys here.
Thank you for hosting us. I'm just gonna record this presentation for you.
Recording in progress.
Start that right now. Yeah, so I for Chaos Crewing, and we are really sorry that we couldn't make it. So we tried really hard and our flights kept getting canceled. And we'll apologize ahead of time if we're overlapping with anything that we've already talked about. We wanted to catch the other presenters, and we also wanted to maybe run with you guys. But we'll have to catch you next year or next time. So we did prepare a slide deck just to make it easier to give you something to watch while we're talking and just follow along. We'll provide a copy of the slides for you, and we'll leave some time at the end for questions. And then we also have other resources that we'll send along to you guys as well. So I'm going to just share our presentation real quick. I'll get that up here. Okay. So just real quick about us. Chaos Crewing provides race support and crew coaching for ultramarathons and personal endurance challenges. We have supported a number of different athletes and front, middle, and back of the Packers at many different events. 200, we've been to Moab, Bigfoot, Cowboys, Coastal Nomad, the Speed Project, just to name a few. We've planned and executed the support of several SKCs at a range of distances. This last summer, we crewed a 4-man cycling team at Race Across America. So we've done a 300-mile stint across the USA in 14 states, and that was a 10-person crew. We were not the lead. It was a great learning experience. That's just a little background on some of the things we crewed. And then we also helped put together plans. We volunteered at races. We co-directed or hosted races. And we've even I've even crewed a 90 miles to ultra race. So we've run the gamut in terms of experience, and we're learning new stuff all the time, and that's where some of our experience that we're going to share today comes from. And we just hope that by participating and partnering with some of the race directors that we've been working with, that we can just bring more people into the sport and give crews confidence to help support you as you're running these super long distances, and also sort of empower you to surpass your goals. So today, you're hearing from me. I'm Ashley Kurt Crosby. I live in Rhode Island, and Brittany and I started this business a couple years ago. We're going on this will be the beginning of our third year. We had another person that get us started, and she's since left, so you might see stuff about her on our website, but now it's Brittany and I kind of running the show. I won't say I'm an ultra runner yet, but I am training for my first 50K, and I have run the New York City Marathon. I like hiking better than running, so I spend a lot of time in the walk zone. And I'll let Brittany introduce herself real quick. Oh, you're muted.
I'm Brittany Kofer. I am based in Indiana. I met Ashley via a podcast called The Adventure Jogger. Heard her stories about crewing and kind of got connected with her. I am an ultra runner. I ran my first 100-mile race last year in October, had a pin, and I'm looking for a 100-miler in this fall. I think I might do the Pinhoti. So I've been looking forward to being there this weekend and seeing that trail because it would be the first time I was out there. But yeah, we will get started with this presentation. If you have any questions, just let us know, and then we'll go from there. So we are going to start with, this is kind of like our roadmap, is the Southern State 200 map. I edited it a little bit on CalTopo just to give a visual like that. We're going to go through trail and race etiquette, crewing 101, pre-race planning, logistics, execution, debrief, and then we'll review kind of what we provide to our athletes and their teams. And so that will send to you, and we can email that to you afterwards. All right. So as far as, actually, it's you.
I started the presentation on the old version, so go ahead and take the trail like it.
So as far as trail and race etiquette, this is really common sense when we think about it. But some people who are fairly new may not follow or know all of like the etiquette processes, and those people who come from road running over to trails definitely tend to throw a lot of trash on the ground, and they're not fully understanding like what trail and race etiquette is in the longer distances. So it's common sense, but it does need to be stated and stated multiple times. So we see it in the runner handbook. The Southern State 200 handbook runner manual is amazing, actually. So kudos to you guys. I was really impressed going through that. It has so much of everything you guys need. But basically follow the rules. The race directors, volunteers, and everyone put a ton of time into this. It takes a lot more than just setting up a race. There's permits, the legalities, providing the safest routes possible and all of that. So be grateful and graceful, especially if something is not going perfectly. As far as the environment, we want to keep it clean. What you take in, take out, kind of leave no trace type of thing. Southern States 100 and 200 is a published race. So just being aware of the environment. This is kind of common sense, so I won't spend too much time on that, but make sure you know that runner handbook.
And I'll just add we've seen a lot of crews who are new and a lot of people who are new who do race before as point to point or longer distance events. And one of the issues that we found is that they aren't thinking about other athletes. They're so hyper-focused, especially because the stakes are higher, you have a longer distance. There's a lot of components and things that the crew is having to watch out for their own athletes, that they can be hyper-focused on that individual. And sometimes they will sort of be in the way of other crews and other athletes. So just from a standpoint of race etiquette, making sure your crew is aware of when other athletes are coming in, if you have an entered an aid station, making room for people to get work on and get the aid that they need at those aid stations. So crewing 101, this was supposed to be the slide we presented first. I apologize if this is a little out of order, but I'm going to go back to that and want to talk about why we have. And simply put, from our perspective, that sharing that experience with crew can be really enriching for your whole team, not just the individual. We recommend that you're taking people who actually want to be there and people who enjoy spending time outdoors and they don't mind preparing for weather conditions. And we also like to pick people who are really resourceful and can handle changes or adversity or even just being adaptable to the myriad of things that can happen when you're out there on the course. We get a lot of people that say to us, well, like, do you recommend family currently for the athlete? And I personally think it's a great opportunity for people to bond with their family members and loved ones. That said, all you need to do is make sure they're prepared. And that sounds simple, right? So we did try to simplify it, and we do try to simplify that for you to help guide it. It's really hard because you're giving coaching advice from your coach, and then you have to coach your crew on how to support you. So we can sort of help build that bridge between what your coach is wanting you to do, what you want to do, and what your crew ends up doing on the race day. And that's sort of what we're going to cover here. But preparation is always key. Just anyone can crew you as long as they're fully prepared from soup to nuts, not just understanding the course and what you want at aid station, but also how you communicate as a team and understanding like having contingency plans for all of those little things that you maybe aren't being prepared for anything by, should I say. Okay. We'll move on to pre-race planning and physical fitness.
So, yep, so a lot of the recruiting aspect we think does come in pre-race planning and going through the runner manual. So this can be done up to 1 year in advance and then realistically right up until the race. We do recommend realistically having at least like 3-inch meetings with your crew to review the runner manual, kind of personal type things, and then just pre-race, like close to the race final update. Mainly do your homework. So typically what we like to do is have the runner go through the runner guide, but also have your crew go through the runner guide kind of separately. And then come together and talk about those, have a generalized meeting regarding kind of the race in general, and start understanding the aid station, you know, what's going to be truly acceptable. A lot of these places are a little bit difficult to get to, so understanding and looking at driving directions is going to be super important instead of just kind of winging it the day of. You certainly can wing things, but it's always nice to be prepared, understanding how much service you're going to have in an area. So I use Google Maps on everything except when we don't have service, and then it gets a little bit tricky. And I'm like not super directionally competent, so I'm going to need a map. So kind of understanding where you are, being prepared, course logistics wise as far as navigation, terrain your car is going to be going over, what kind of terrain the runner is going to be going through, because that's going to depend, that's going to change their speed. It might slow them down a little bit. There's a lot of elevation gain. And then being aware of the weather and all of that. And then leading up to it, Southern States 200's got the great runner manual. They've got Facebook group. They also, I think there's a couple of podcasts people have talked about this race on. And so there's things out there. As a crew, before we did the Grand Slam of 200, like we watched a ton of different YouTube videos. Really, from a runner's perspective, there's not much out there on a perspective. We'll get a little bit of that, but just kind of seeing what the runner is going through, and we do get some images and video from aid stations. So that helps guide us in, you know, what we could expect out there. And then as a crew, you're always monitoring updates. So for Bigfoot, when we were going up there this past year, there's some wildfires. And so a lot of things got changed completely last minute. And even for the runners who were on course, It's us as a crew, we have to stay up to date as possible, and usually the, race director and team and volunteers are really good about notifications, whether it's on Facebook or at aid station. So, just being kind of aware and doing a good overview to begin with, and then start narrowing in on the nitty-gritty. Ash, do you have anything else to add?
That's good. I'm gonna move on to team logistics. I think this is a good point to bring up, just because there's so much pre-planning that goes into getting a team there and making sure that everyone's taken care of. So you want to start planning out your early on. I don't know how many of you are local versus how many of you are traveling around the state, but it's important to consider how they're gonna get there and how they're gonna get around and not just expect them to kind of show up and know what they're supposed to do. If you're asking someone to crew for you, please consider the cost of their travel and the time that they're taking to come crew for you. I think this is a big challenge for a lot of runners is just finding crew that have the time and have the, means to assist. So just make sure that you're taking that into account and helping them out in any way that you can to support you the best way that they can. We always try to do our shopping kind of at the race location versus just carrying everything in. But if you're driving from a local location, that's great for you. You can bring more supplies with you if you need to. We do have a gear checklist in our crew book that we'll provide to you. That kind of gives you an idea of some of the things that we bring along. Obviously, when you're looking at the actual course, you're gonna have a disconnect between, like, you have to consider what the crew can carry in and carry out and organizing that here, which I think Brittany's gonna talk a little bit more about later. But these are all of the things that we go through with our team and not just piecemealing together. We have a centralized location where we put everyone's travel plans in that location. If you're only traveling with one crew member, that can look different than if you have 3 people that are coming for you. But just making sure that you kind of all know each other's plans so that if somebody doesn't show up, you know where to kind of fill in the gaps. And then we always try to map out gas stations and grocery stores that might be along the course that we can go to, whether or not we're going to be able to go back to a hotel room, take a shower, get some sleep in between those aid stations, things like that. And then we always have multiple forms of navigation. We print, we also take download navigation information to our phone so that we can have that offline, and then we obviously access by my GPS. And I had a thought, but it slipped off, it'll come back to me, but that's pretty much what I wanted to kind of cover on this slide.
So, it all kind of intertwines, so it's hard to like focus on just one thing, because when we talk about this in general, it all kind of intertwines. So when we talk about runner aid, typically what we like to do and how we communicate with our runner is we talk about what their agency goals are, just to get an idea of potentially how fast they're going to be going versus they just want to finish in the peak time. Well, I think Southern States is 96 hours total, I believe. I think last year the fastest runner was 48-ish hours for a male, and female was a little bit more than that. But I always want to try and understand agency goals, like if we're totally like going for it, what do you think we can do? That's based off of potentially previous races and the first 200. Giving some numbers could be helpful. Knowing these will probably change all time. Our Bigfoot Penny ended up running like 6 hours faster than we had anticipated. So your crew is always going to be flexible. So we like to measure runner pace, and we'll show you a chart that we utilize. We typically try and get the pacer situation handled beforehand and trying to understand exactly what sections the runner is going to want a pacer. So a lot of times it's maybe in the middle of the night. For some people, a pacer may say like, I'm doing this, it's the flattest section, that's what you're going to get from me. end of story. So trying to get those figured out beforehand is going to be important. You certainly don't need pacers. It's always nice, especially when you're sleep deprived and feeling low. It's always nice to have someone just out there sharing miles with you. And then managing pacers, so they're going to have all of the gear on the required gear list, making sure they've got enough food, making sure they've got enough what they need as far as like if they take their equals, if they need certain medications on them, so all of that. So they've got to be managing themselves as well, and a lot of times pacers are part of the crew. As far as nutrition, everyone is a little bit different, and I forget if I saw in the runner manual, so I apologize, what nutrition Southern States offers, but some people like certain products, so making sure that nutrition is able to get there, whether you're driving or flying or whatever. Certain gels and stuff not be on a carry-on, so kind of keep that in mind if people are traveling in. And then as far as the sleep aspect, a lot of these races will have, like Southern States will have warm tents and costs for you guys at certain aid stations. Some people, for whatever reason, will choose to sleep in a car if that's something they want. So being aware of, what's something I like to do is bring, if I can, if it's drivable, is bring a soft like mattress we got off Amazon. It's like less than a twin size, but it fits on one side of the car, and you can sleep on that. So that's something to consider for the runner, but also for your crew. As far as husbandry, some people must brush their teeth. Some people just need mouthwash. So thinking about those things for both runner and then going through all of this stuff with your crew of like typically in the morning, I need to brush my teeth, I want to change my clothes, etc. Understanding gear, I typically will take a picture of when I see my partner Matt, I usually take a picture of like what's in a pack and I also have it written down. But it's nice to kind of look and go back if needed. And then usually within a race, you'll start with the first aid station and obviously keep going. You'll get a sense of like what the runner kind of needs and feels. It's sometimes hard to talk about that beforehand, but always trying to is going to be a huge importance of like how the runner likes things done. And then we'll talk about the communication aspect in a little bit, but also monitoring how they're feeling and getting a sense of like this runner, this is an A race for them this year. They are finishing Southern States 200 no matter what, even if they are going to get a little injured, which we hope that doesn't happen. But sometimes you feel a little twinge and you're like, how do I keep doing that? Do I not? It's just trying to understand one of those types of things of like what are we doing health wise, but also being aware of like how much is pushing the limit. Like, how is it too much? If we're continuing to vomit, you can't breathe through, it's going to be solid. So just being kind of aware of that, and after it can be hard to navigate that. And again, we'll talk about that a little bit in communication, but trying to talk with your crew beforehand about how you guys handle some CI upset, some strains, if you have to get massaged out. Those are things to kind of talk beforehand, and you certainly can rearrange during the race.
Yeah, and I think we can just continue because that's a great segue into the next slide anyway. And I'll let you talk more about this, but I think some of the main sticking points with the crew are well, other than timing and navigation and staying organized, is assessing the magnitude of the problem that an athlete is facing, and then also knowing the appropriate course of action. So really being able to see warning signs when you have like a hydration issue, but not, I think it is easy for people to maybe catastrophize situations when they don't know the proper warning signs, or they think they know, but you haven't talked about it before. Everybody has expertise that they get from their various sources, and sometimes that's online, and it might not be the way that your particular body reacts as an athlete. So it's good to have those conversations ahead of time. And we talk about this when we build our program.
And it's something like communication is so important. So especially if it's family members, like, if your mom is there, she may want to follow you a little bit more than, get your ass out and keep going. So having an understanding with the people around you, if it's your wife, your husband, your, family, who is you're a little bit more likely to be, a little short with sometimes in stressful moments. Just having an understanding of like both sides, runner and crew, that you're not there to get pissed off at each other. Like, you're ultimately there to help each other, and sometimes there can be tension, especially if it's freaking cold, you're tired, there's a lot of that going on. So never taking anything to heart, and like always knowing like there is an underlying respect there. So we do things like family can certainly do this, friends can do this, and even strangers can do this with a little bit of communication, understanding, and trying to understand personality types. So that's something to talk about beforehand. I think we've got about, sorry, I'm just kind of double checking on time. We can start to move to questions in a little bit. So, again, a lot of this for me is some common sense things that gets lost in translation when we are super tired, busy, trying to get in and out. Something to communicate with your runner and crew about is certainly like how quick do your aid stations transitions want to be. If you want to be in and out, are you trying to break that record? Or, being at an aid station is going to be super fun for you and you don't care how long you stay there. I think that's something to understand before, going into a race. So, I don't need to break any records. I want to have fun. The aid station volunteers are always awesome. So that's something to talk about.
Yeah, I agree. And, I think you did a great job of bringing up some of the issues that could come up, but, we always try to cover like what to do if there's a bad stomach, like here's the first point of defense, here's the second point of defense, and then at what point do we need to go see, go talk to a medic. And maybe bringing a medic in right away is a really good plan, especially with the care. If you're having injuries to your feet, sort of addressing those early on. And we provide in the handbook that we'll send to you guys, we provide some of the solutions that we've found are helpful, but it's not all inclusive. So definitely talk about what works for you. And Brittany started to touch on this earlier, but we put everything together into a spreadsheet, and we also have a crew book, like a crew handbook / guide that we put together for each race for each athlete. So it's going to be specific to you, and we highly recommend you doing this. And it can be simple or it can be complex, and this complements what the race director has provided. It's just specific to you. And the first part of that, the spreadsheet, is going to show you sort of, we take information on the course and we add that into the spreadsheet. And then we use Ultra Pacer as a way to determine the ABC goals and what the time for each aid station might look like based on that goal. Again, you have to account for time that you're going to spend at aid stations. So we do like to try and identify the aid stations that are going to be more sleep conducive than others, or ones that we want to take longer breaks at. And we use that spreadsheet to sort of track how we're doing and how close we are to the goals. And also to, you can see on the right here, but there is a B and a C goal on the right. I couldn't fit it all in here, but I think you get the idea that we use the spreadsheet to sort of track the pacing as we go. We also know how to calculate pace, and I think it's really good for you to make sure your crew knows how to simply calculate the pacing went on the last leg. If there's comparable legs that maybe you can identify, like these are legs where there's elevation, and these are legs where there's not as much elevation, it's more flat. This section is later on in the race, so I might be going slower, trying to identify those differences and call them out and say, if I'm running this pace on this section, you could probably calculate, use my pace that I ran on that section to calculate my pace for this upcoming section, something like that. And I would identify those sections ahead of but knowing how to calculate pace, that's something a lot of new people to the running community don't know how to do. So make sure your crew know how to do that. It also helps because, aid stations, sometimes or most of the time are limited on parking. And so you want to make sure that you're not crowding a station way too soon with your crew. That's really hard to do. And there will be times where your crew gets there too early. It's not always perfect system, but I think as long as your crew is, being mindful of the other crews and making space for people that are coming in at that time, then you should be okay.
Yeah. As far as I'm gonna cut you off there, I think we're getting ready to wrap up. So we have quite a few, we've got some extra slides too. And we'll send this to you, we'll send our crewing handbook, but specific questions we'll try and answer. So I think your team there is gonna help kind of navigate those questions and we'll try and answer whatever we can.
So if you guys have any questions, just kind of say them to me. Maybe they can hear, maybe they can't, but we can translate. Any thoughts? Any questions? And again, a lot of this will be provided to you guys via your email, so you'll have access to it. It's been recorded, and then obviously all their contact information is available. So, all right. Well, I think we're good on our side. Ashley, Brittany, we sure appreciate the time today, and you guys have a great evening.
You too. Thanks for being there.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Recording stopped.
God dang it. You're sorry.
Okay, so I prepared nothing, which is actually not normal to say, but, while we were talking, I wrote down things, so, first thing, and I'm probably mostly recovered already, but, first thing I wrote down is dinner, if you're a crew, and if you're especially in a rural area, places closed, and it's 11 o'clock, and I'm like, oh, you haven't eaten all day. You get some of the gas stations for lunch. Other thing is that, I mean, just kind of already answered. I don't book a room for 200. I did once book a campground at Moab, and actually I went. This kind of goes to another point I had. I went to Tuesday campground. I didn't camp, I just pulled a truck in and flat. They did have a shower, which was nice, but I missed Nikki at the aid station that next morning, not because I didn't have enough time, going into the next point. Make sure you know exactly where that aid station is well before you need to be there. I couldn't find it. GPS was not working on my phone. And there was just one turn. I drove by it 20 times. There was one turn that I missed, and she sat in the blazing sun in Utah, waited on me because she had nothing for a few hours. Other thing I was going to say is when you come in, and when your runner comes in, rather, they're going to go to sleep. Eat before they go to sleep. Eat when you wake up. I think those two things, you want to put as much calories in as you can, right and right after, and during that, the immediate thing you do is, hey, what needs to be charged, what can I get you to eat, and they go off. It is tricky. It can be real tricky. 2 o'clock in the morning, you have stuff either. You might want to sleep, but sometimes it works. Yeah, I guess my next point I had, you will be exhausted. Be prepared for that. So, get your rest when you can, even if you're like, I'm not tired right now. We don't eat. So try to eat when you know you need to in advance and sleep as well. Stay a nap. You will forget things the next week or road channel. So I know I have not run a 200, I've run plenty of hundreds. I can think 4 minutes before I get to the aid station, this, and this. And all I can remember is one thing when I get there. Same thing happens for her. You're like, oh, I need to use all these things, and I have to do this. And then when she gets there, she's like, well, this, and this. And I forget everything. So
prepare for those things and have them sitting there ready to go. Otherwise, they're gonna forget, they're gonna be gone, oh, I should consider that. That nutrition or whatever. So I learned that. That's right.
When I was going them all back to the car to get the one I was looking at.
Yes, and sometimes you will need your sprinting shoes to run back to the car, to grab something, for your runner. We try to do that for each other, actually in different races. Did try to leave the last race, without her shoes. It's really neat. Thankfully, someone kept her there for an extra couple of minutes. Sprinted to go get them. Any questions?
I got a question about this particular cat. Are all the HTC parking and close enough so we don't need like a wagon to carry stuff?
Yes.
Pretty much, you can everything will be.
I can't speak for all the aid stations, but I know that the one that we were at, there was times where we must have had probably 2,000 vehicles on that road, with various situations. And again, like out of those 2,000 people, half of them were people that are sick. And the other half is people that are waiting.
It was the first year though, so I think these roads are gonna get busier and busier.
On a race wheel, know that. Parker for
Not to say that that couldn't happen, but, I know on this one, nobody was more than just lost from, where the run company.
Only Asian time, it's the last one I lost also, where there is a park, but you're parking on the side of the road, that's not yours. Okay, that's my business.
We stopped.
I'm changing the direction.
And I guess that's a question for David. There's a couple first stuff in the runner's manual that says possibly. There's a couple aid stations that say possibly. It doesn't say yes or no. Which one? I heard it, I agree. There's two of them that said, they're thinking there's a yes or no, and it's
Possible, but they're still kind of possible, but I think we've got to get approval of the forest road.
okay.
And so those two,
One of them I think is.
yeah, and they're all gonna be, everybody will be so scattered out, and it's not gonna be a parking issue, but it's their concern. I think all of those, they don't say no to approve, we don't have an option there. But, okay, I'm pretty sure, they're only gonna be open.
The one was right next to one of our.
No, they're probably high forest, that's why we can't flow those steps into the forest, in the national forest. So they don't use the forest. Because the only two that we're concerned about are three are the ones that say you can't specifically go through those for one thing, but I don't have to go up to John's Mountain, which is be a disaster. You have the whole mountain. But we're locked up there.
Yes.
All that is, there's a shower at Fort Lake. They don't want to be a I feel like pretty long.
Did he talk about the sleep stations? Yeah.
Yes, well, Moab, I did check where the campground, RFP. It's good.
One thing I often do, color sorting, use the same colors. The same blue, logging stuff that's going on, and may or may not be happening this year. But, Also at night, some of the turns, I had to get full, half. During the course, I got off course. I was going down the road, and I knew I needed to turn right on another road. When I got to that road, I saw nothing. And there was no sign on, if I'm walking, opposite traffic on the left side. There wasn't a sign that you didn't know it was there. I was like, hey, how do you see it? Right. But, luckily I got down the road, it's like, I should have been on that turn. I'll go on after enough, it's behind.
I can-
I'm in the woods and there's mud, I won't go around, I thought I was long, just I'm up on the side, going through, I knocked out, that going down that road from the trail to turn. And, I'm going down, it's like, I know that iron street was coming down. I was looking at it earlier. I'm trying to find out, there's several people who did that same thing, but after the race, and all the people were talking on the line. Oh, that's that turn there. And you get back there, it's like, there's like, I don't know. I got all over, just a little bit, just to avoid that much. So they know how to operate that. Okay. I never used one before, so I had a big learning curve right there. Split up, started with.
Thank you. We learned a lot last year. We had, we learned some things that didn't work, things that did work, things that got changed. One issue we had was three critical terms, the science of last year. One where it would send people off down the road for who knows how far until they realized there were no more signs. That was, I think, at East Orbucci Road, and the road will come up the yards and then go back up to the right. They pulled up the sign and a half mile of flags. The next one was that where you cross over that, you went up the hill after you on Fire Road 5 or County Road 500 to go to Hilltop Balloon. And you come up to the ridge, you cross the highway, you go back down to the side of the gravel road. And they get pulled together. They pull the signs up, the watch for cars sign, straight ahead arrow sign, and a half mile sign, flag. And they did the same then at where you turned off, and almost back to Morgan Lane, Coleman Lane. You hit the Pinhoti Trail and went off to your left, and we had an arrow sign, a wrong way sign, and then flags. They reversed it. And not to mention that, they also ran over half the signs coming down that road. I didn't realize that until I ran the road pulling. It's like, if they run over, it's just something of way. That's one reason you have to have that deal out working, because we put them out. And I went back, fortunately, I found all that when I went back, because when I delivered supplies, I drove all the road sections to be sure everything was still in place. I also have problems. We put up signs like at critical road crossings, because there are several major highways and Pinhoti crosses. And so I put up these big yellow signs that say caution, runners on the road. Well, I think the highway department pulled those signs. Anyway, a bunch of those were gone. Some were still there, but I'm going to try to talk to the sheriff's department so they can hopefully the road crews don't pull, because they don't believe, you put up signs on the road, they pull up, that's their job. So be sure maybe they don't do it. But you got to look at the course on the app, know how to use it, know how to properly. Several things I want to go over this year. One of the things we've changed, several things we've changed. The sleep station, well, there's going to each of the sleep stations. There's the 5 sleep stations is, as it was last year, going to be heated. All of the tents, 8 station tents, are also going to be heated, and they're all going to have a table and some chairs so you can sit down and actually sort through your drop bag at a table rather than, having to sit on the ground or sit on a folding chair, which trouble with folding chairs, you can't get out when you get ready to get out. You're like, especially about mile 80 and beyond. So we're going to have that in all the aid stations. The aid stations that don't have sleep stations are also going to have a warming tent with a heater and some chairs that you go and sit down and warm up, because in March it may be cold, and obviously, our weather. Every aid station, all the aid stations are going to have a couple of sleeping bags, and because as I can vouch for my experience, you don't necessarily get sleep in sleep stations, so that will, give people another option. Yeah, there will be a heated tent, and if you want heated tent, you're have to go to the aid station with it, but there will be a sleeping bag. Let's see, the table and chairs. Let's see. And that's the main thing. One of the pluses we have to do with, where they were talking about planning, is it's never very far for the crew or for the aid station crews that matter to a town, because they, on both sides, I don't think there's a spot you're more than probably 10 or 12 miles from a town, maybe 15. Most of them have hotels, where your crew can estimate, okay, and that this time they're going to be here. So if I want to sleep some, I can stay here and you'll be close to 2 or 3 aid stations. And of course, there's also restaurants and food, gas stations, don't want to run out of gas out there, things like that. So that's the nice thing about our course, is it's much more accessible than, like in Moab, you have 2 options. There's a town 50 miles here and Moab's 50 miles that way. And there's nothing anywhere. So we're kind of out in the boonies. But this does make it a lot easier to service everything. And the fact that we have water all along, of course, you're not going to run out of water. Anyway, the diesel flag, the signs, we'll try to have these at every major turn. Like if you've been going, I found when I swept, there was a road that came into the very first section that I didn't know was there. It doesn't show up on the maps. It does on one map, but not on the other. So we didn't have a sign for it, but you come into the road this way, and we'd had a sign out there. We also have some wrong way signs, and we'll have those at spots where we can get them. And we have close to 3,000 of these. And there'll be a few of them that won't have the first 10 miles or so. We don't bother with because it takes forever to put these stupid flags. But other than that, every flag on the course will have a reflective DOT tape on it. If you come to an intersection and there's nothing there, then something's wrong with it. Period. Because we do not leave any aid station, any turn unmarked. If the crew, whoever is marking we sometimes run out of signs, they'll take a few up on the mountain. Well, that may not have quite enough, or they put too many, so they get to a spot. If they don't have a sign, there will be 4 or 5 flags within sight of that turn. And even at night, because that way there's nothing, that way you're going to see a line of these things, because you can see these. This is that reflective DOT tape that's on bridges and stuff like that. So you'll be able to see off which way you go. And if you don't, then automatically pull out your navigation thing and see what's wrong. Because that kind of stuff, like I said, it does happen. That's probably about it. We are going to have 3 Starlink phones this year. One of us, either Jonathan over there, who's been taking care of all the computer stuff all day. He last year he helped me Dave put together all those stupid tents for 200 miles, which is a job. And then came back and worked with helping us get them all pulled out. We have to carry it. We can't leave anything to it. As people come out of the last aid station, we have to pull everything down, through to him. And Michael Stevens is off, getting engaged. Officially, no, they wouldn't have got officially engaged. So anyway,
Just celebrating it.
they're celebrating official engagement this weekend. Are trying to keep everything. So we'll have probably one of those two. We'll have one of the phones. We'll have one of the phones with whoever is going to be at Ball Rock. And I know Mary Jo, that's her race job. She goes up there and she's at the finish. And if you haven't met her, that's Mary Jo Wade. She's the incredible person to come over to all this stuff. It helps. She's also a wife. So, so we'll have a satellite phone there. Every Jameson has a satellite phone, and we'll give it. Everybody will have those numbers. And in case there's an issue that comes up, you need to have those numbers in your phone so you can get in touch with the proper person. Primarily, Aaron, if there's a major problem, and he can coordinate whatever needs to be done. So, other than that, I don't think there's a lot of, that is just like regular old race plan. So, thank you all for coming and doing it. Yes. Right now, we're ahead. We've got more. We originally had 60, we had 62 or 63 sign up, 22 forward into this year. We've already had about 8 or 10 people moving their registration to next year this year, but we're still up at about 60, I think. I don't know, I haven't looked. I don't, it's been celebrated. So, and we just found out yesterday, was it? I got an email from Tocadona that they were trying to get the 250 people on the wait list in the range. Well, the Forest Service will not allow it, or the Rural Land Management. So all those people are now not running. So I'm hoping a few of them come down here and run our race, but we can let them in. But anyway, we're just adding a lot of equipment and stuff like that will make it not anything most people will notice, but it'll make everything, I think, better. We'll buy a whole bunch of extra heaters. We'll buy a whole bunch of propane tanks. That's not fun.
What's the major benefit of neutral diet as opposed to putting the GPS route on whatever other navigation your Garmin or
Which is the final, they're on the website. And if you go down, it'll say download the file.
And I've done that. I just didn't know that Gaia was a specific requirement for this race.
No. It's any navigation that you know how to use is fine, whether it's your watch, any other app. There's all kinds of stuff. I like Gaia, it's free. Sure. And it works great. And like I say, it's just since I didn't know it about it till low out actually, and they require same thing, some kind of navigation on it. That's all that matters. It's just that we're not crazy about roads. I mean, as long as you're behaving and not cutting the corners or getting in a car, doing what you're just it's like I always bring this different thing in there that says you can't ride. I mean, everybody knows that, and it's almost silly to put it in. I do anyway. And I have some people that have kind of balls of weird things. So, we're just not going to be. You weren't supposed to. I actually got in trouble at Owen. I was about to fall asleep going up the geyser path. It was freezing cold. Michael is in a pair of shorts, and it's below freezing. And I had been going so slow all afternoon. I know he was about to die. And there's a bend in the road and I was a flat rock over here. Well, I was headed with a flat rock. I cut across the rock. And somebody from the crew came up and said, you can't cut. Come back here. I had to go back to the road, go around, and I would have probably saved 5 feet. You know, it's just, we don't do that. We want people to be able to enjoy their run. And, you know, of course, that the restaurant has a whole lot of people, and I suspect they have people trying to pull stuff, and I can kind of understand their point. But anyway, you're not getting kicked out. We might tell you, don't do that. Then, you know, we're not going to stuff like that. But if anything else, anyway, we want people to have fun and enjoy it.
That does remind me, last year, the Lawsville aid station is not only completed. You're going up to, you have to spend all out and back to that aid station. You don't have a choice. You have to go to that.
You have to go to all the aid stations. And somebody did, went straight. Unfortunately, that put them up in a place, they placed. So it was obvious what they did. They said, well, I didn't know we had to go there. And I was out, so I didn't know that. I would have given him 2 choices. Go back to that aid station or you're disqualified. But the people at the finish didn't do that. In fact, they gave him an award. We immediately when I got back, changed that, but I still had to get another award made, and I'm sure that person still has that award. Anyway,
They resolve all
but that's cutting course, you know, everybody knows you. Anyway, so you have to go to all these. Anyway, well, Logan should have some food out here ready for everybody. He has all kinds of veggie, non-veggie, what all. Whatever you need is out there.
everything. It's impressive looking.
Rules are over here. If anybody wants to do it, have some cool.
Or David, fix you all out. I just wanted to say, I'm on Facebook, with Robin, under my name. If anybody thinks that any questions your crew has, whatever, you can reach out, shoot me a message, I will get back to you. Or I'll ask my crew for their thoughts, or where they have problems, or whatever you need, you know, and if you can find me other people, I bet none of them are gonna.
Yeah, I think everybody will be happy if you'd like to contact them. If you want to send me, but it might be best if I just send it to me and I'll forward it to whoever. Unless they want to just give it, so fine, you get. Oh, what other thing, we're about to leave. Is everybody got a question? Okay. You're not? Why not? We will actually, that's what I know if anybody, I suggest everybody, look at the farm. As far as the park, you have to pay your fee to get in because we don't have the cabins big and ready today. And they probably are not going to refund it, but I think in fact they hold it up today. I don't know. But you'll have to pay to get in, which is $5. And hard, probably just over it. That is Red Bud Pavilion. I think you get one there. Probably that's fine. I think that's you paid. But you buy Red Bud, you go up